Welcome to Diary of an Ex-Ho. I'm Cheri Hardman. I'll be your ex-ho. Today's guest is Orchid Cameron. So sit back, enjoy the show, and remember the old saying, always a bridesmaid when you're a hoe. All right, state your name for the record.
My name is Orchid Cameron.
You don't even have to tell the truth. No. So we met at Zoom, doing Zoom comedy together, correct? Yeah, during
we
during
met
the
on
pandemic.
Zoom. Yeah, I think we met in like a Flapper show.
Oh
a
yeah,
Flapper show or a Zoom
Oh.
open mic, something like
Yeah,
that. I'm
yeah.
located in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Are your parents together, or were they together when you were growing up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's actually an extremely complicated answer. So my parents have been together since they were 14 years old.
Okay.
So my parents have been together since they're 14-year-olds. So these two, they got in a fight. My mom was with somebody else one time, and then they got back together. So I have a different father than my siblings. But
Okay.
my dad on my birth certificate,
Were you the one time?
I'm the one time.
Okay. All right. Got it.
So it's pretty so I look like a white person, but I'm raised in a Japanese family and I'm actually legally Japanese American.
Okay.
So I talked to a lawyer about it. Like, my birth certificate has my father's name on it who raised me, not my biological father. And so I am biologically 50% Cuban, but I was raised in like an all Japanese American family. So I'm culturally Japanese, but I'm 50% Cuban, half like 50% Cuban, 25% Japanese, and 25% like everything white.
Okay. When you said Cuban, I thought you said human, and I'm like, dang, man, she's really being racist.
I'm only half Cuban. I actually almost all my jokes have to do with like how much I hate the word race. Like, I hate the word race. It's I hate when white equals human. So like, I actually complain about that. White equals human,
Right.
American equals human. Everything else has a qualifier, right?
Right. Okay, so your parents, did you see like any, we're going to call your parents your ones that raised you, okay?
Yeah, exactly. So my dad
Right.
who raised me is who I call dad.
Okay.
The other guy's my biological father. I give him a robotic title or his first name.
Okay. So, did you see, like, were they affectionate with each other? Did you see that they loved each other, or?
That's a super funny question because Japanese in Japan, they don't touch, they bow, right? They bow. Like, you don't even shake hands when you say hello to someone, you bow. And so couples don't really hold hands in public or anything like that. So one time my dad and my mom were on the couch, and one of them was leaning on their right elbow, tilting their head, and the other one was leaning on the other side, tilting their head. Like, their heads were still 4 inches apart, but I was like, oh, they're cuddling.
Oh.
Like, that's how much like my family, like, people don't touch each other.
Okay.
My parents don't hug or say I love you to me as their child. Like, people don't hug, people don't say I love you. So like, I was, as a little kid, all the men in my family are Japanese. My grandma's white American. But everyone else is Japanese American or half Japanese, all the men. So culturally, Japanese American men don't really talk to children. They acknowledge them with like a nod, but they're not like, hey, little girl. So I was like super afraid of white men as a child. I was afraid of white men because white men would come up and say, hi, little girl, how are you? And I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
Every white man was like trying to molest me because culturally it wasn't normal to be like, move your voice up and down and get close and say hello. Like, to me, I was like, what is like,
Wow.
so I grew up with kind of I was Cuban till I was 19. And so if you really think about the differences between being Japanese American and being Cuban American, once I found out I was half Cuban when I was 19 years old, I was like, oh, doesn't hate me. I'm just Cuban and she's Japanese. So like I would try to hug her and she'd kind of push me away like she wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And but like, most Latin cultures hug and kiss acquaintances or maybe even people they just met that day. And so I needed more, like I had more skin hunger to be touched. Just,
Right.
and it sounds racist, but it's just there's some biology to wanting to touch people. And there is also some biology to my whole family being like, what?
Huh.
So
So
so my
do you still feel that like you like to really want to touch people or
yeah, I'm a hug person. And so uh one of the like it's funny, my one of my uncles, most people in my family are on my dad's side is they're all Japanese, 100% Japanese, but my uncle married someone from Honduras, and like it was the best thing to happen to our family because she had no clue how Japanese Americans act, so she would just hug my grandma and kiss her, and she'd be like my only mother-in-law, and like would be like super affectionate, and like we're like, wow, we love our auntie. Like,
brought a little spice to life, huh?
yeah. So as far as like touch goes, it's not normal for people to touch or say I love you in my family. But in my body, I I don't know, even in my marriage it was kind of a thing. I've been married twice and divorced twice. But like I married a British guy. So British guy does not have as high a drive as I do, believe it or not. And like I just like loved him as a person and loved his person. I mean, we still like we'll have coffee and talk for like 4 or 5 hours sometimes. We'll just sit and talk for hours. He's super brilliant, smart, fun, funny. But like physically, like we were not a match.
Yeah.
Like you can imagine.
Yeah. Oh. So,
Have you had these similar experiences yourself?
um, when I was younger and I was just kind of dating more, whenever I had boyfriends, they never wanted sex as much as I did.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't until I met like Noah's dad that he was a sex addict. So I finally found my match. Yeah, well, I learned a lot about bad stuff there, but
Oh wow.
yeah, I think I've found a happy medium now.
Oh, okay. Do you have a current partner that you're
My
well
my,
matched with?
my husband, yeah.
Oh, okay. How long have you been married?
It'll be 13 years next week.
Oh wow.
And
Happy anniversary.
this is my first husband. My ex,
Oh.
a live-in, So I waited till I was 49 to get married. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Sounds like that like you made the right choice to wait. Um
definitely.
so so the sex addict stuff, my first husband had that issue, and yeah, it did not end well. There was some violence towards me, there was some bad stuff happening towards me. Uh and he when we split up, he like toured with his band. He was like a musician, and he got had a really bad drug problem. He toured the world, had a really bad drug problem. But then when my child was about like 5 or 6, he quit his band. He came home. He did AA and SA, Sexual Addicts Anonymous, and then he got his master's degree and just like totally cleaned up his life and became involved with my child again. So my child had a gap of like 5 years of just having no dad, which was very intense, and I think still affects my child as an adult. But I'm glad that I mean he didn't. My ex-husband didn't recover enough to have like a real relationship with him, but I'm glad he recovered enough to be a pretty good dad to my child.
Wow. Yeah.
But
Well,
but it was a
that's a hard life to live. Because I don't know about your sex addict, but mine was constantly cheating on me and really, really messed me up. Really messed me up.
Wow. Yeah, that so like it sounds like he cheated and would say sorry, but you'd take him back and then he'd cheat again kind of thing. Like oh, that sounds terrible. That sounds like really an emotional, like a basically a head fuck, right? The whole time to have someone he probably acted super affectionate too, so you wanted to believe him. That
Yeah.
sounds really hard.
I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. And, believe, well, anyway, many years of Codependence Anonymous helped with that.
Oh yeah?
On my behalf, yes. So,
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have the cheating so much. He was more of a solo porn and strip club person.
oh, got
He
it.
wasn't physically cheating, but he was more interested in pleasing himself and not another human being. And then the drug use caused some physical violence towards me. So it was more the physical violence from the drug use that I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
We're not doing this anymore. So yeah, I think my baby wasn't even fully one yet when we split up, but it was around that age,
Mhm.
around like just under 1 or 1. So yeah,
So
I've
you have one child?
yeah, that's my stand-up joke. I don't know if you've heard it, but I got married when I was 20, had a baby and got divorced. Then I got married when I was 30, had a baby and got divorced. And now I'm 40 and I'm not a fucking quitter. So yeah, I have my oldest is 22, and then my youngest is 7. So they're 15 years apart. Obviously, a lot of stand-up material there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I 43 right now, and my mom was 41 when she became a grandma to my oldest child. And so I'm 2 years older than my mom when she became a grandma. And in a lot of ways, I'm like a grandma to my child because like everything she does, I know it's gonna fly by so fast. Everything she does, it's gonna fly by so fast. So I'm living it up. I'm just living it up with these years she still loves me. And at
Mm-hmm.
some point, it's just gonna turn, and she's gonna be too cool for mommy. But now I'm like, yes, matching outfits.
Right.
Matching
I
outfits
remember.
every day.
I remember when my son. Nobody really tells you this, but I remember when my son went through the phase of not liking me. And it was so heartbreaking to me. It broke my heart. Like I didn't like, I didn't know, I knew
So
that how kids are and how they act around their parents, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me.
even if someone told you, you wouldn't know how gutted you were going to be by it. Like, even if
Right.
someone told you, like, someday your kid's going to hate you and it's going to really gut you, you'd be like, okay. But then when it happens, you're like, oh my gosh. like,
Ooh,
like,
yeah,
it's a very, those are hard years, but like, it's actually a healthy part of development.
right.
Like a kid wanting to be independent from their mom is a healthy part of development. So even just like when my son moved away to another state, I was like, I didn't call him for maybe a month, like 3 weeks or a month. And because I knew I was going to beg him to come home. I knew I was going to beg him to come home. And I was just like, Orchid, be cool. You did a good job. He's going to survive. Just let him do his thing. Don't tell him to come home. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so hard to, but it's like, but it still hurts all those years that I hate you
Right.
years.
Right. Yeah. Well, in some ways, I was lucky that my older son is very disabled. So he's always my 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old. He's always going to be in that I adore mom stage.
Oh, what?
So while they're
So you
still,
were super not prepared for the hate years.
yeah,
You were just like
yeah,
super not prepared. Oh my God.
right.
So your older son that's disabled, how old is he?
He's 38.
Oh, and then he lives with you and you take care of him or you have a
Yeah.
caretaker? Oh,
And he
nice.
gets up
Nice.
every morning and says, "You're the prettiest mom in the whole wide world." Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Lovely. That's
Yeah.
lovely. Yeah, I would accept that compliment.
All right,
That's
so
really
let's go
nice.
back to like when you were a kid. And do you
Hmm.
remember like your, I want to call it a sexual awakening, but that is just like, to me, when you first noticed, hey, there's something going on in this world that I previously didn't realize. So it
Well,
could be an easy way. When
I
was
would love to tell you about that. So I was like maybe 14-ish when I started to like notice boys, right? But I was extremely religious. I was extremely religious and I was celibate. And so it wasn't in my mind for it to be an option at all. Like it just wasn't in my mind at all. And um I I was so innocent. I was so innocent about sex. Like I didn't know a penis got hard until I was raped. Like I know that's like a terrible thing to say, but like that's a bad surprise to know that little about sex. To you know the
right?
the first time I was penetrated was an unwanted. It was like he was 18, I was 15. I said no. It was covered up by my church that it happened. Like it was a bad, bad, bad situation. And so that was when I was 15. So, but because I was religious, I didn't really count that as my first time. I'm like, no, I said no, it doesn't count. So I still felt like in myself a virgin in a way, even though I technic, depending whose scale you look at, that was not an awakening. That was a destruction, right? And then my marriage was the second person I had sex with because I was celibate to get married, right? And then he was always like a little bit abusive. Um, and he just always did things to kind of hurt me. And so I kind of joke that I feel like the first time I had sex was after I had a baby with my first husband. Like, so, like, after my first husband moved out, I had a straight up one night stand with somebody who was gross. Like he was a gross guy. He was just somebody in my theater group. He was such a silly thing, but he was just like he was a gross guy. And so I slept with this guy, and while we were having sex, he I didn't even hear myself say the smallest ow. I just said ow, and he jumped off of me and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was a little shocked because I was used to someone wanting to hurt me, right?
Mm.
And then he's like made sure I was okay, and then we finished having sex. And then like I woke up the next morning being like, I feel like a woman. Like it's like I was like, I understand the word womanizer because now I do feel like a full person. Like I felt like I wasn't a person before that moment. And it sounds sexist to say sex turns you into from maiden to woman, but it did. And like, but it's so funny that I got married, had a baby, and got divorced, and then I had sex for the first time. Like, and like, even though that guy was such a loser, oh my gosh, he was such a loser. He treated me with kindness, and that was like the first time someone treated me with kindness in a sexual way. And like, I totally fell in love with him. I fell in love with him so much that like it wasn't. I intended it to be a one night stand. He intended and succeeded. I like drunk dialed him a week later to be like, "Why'd you leave me?" Which I feel like isn't the drunk dial an important part of my sexual awakening, right? Like that the sex was so good. It was like I totally chemically bonded with this. Like I said, he was not someone I would choose out of a lineup. But
Right.
after that, I felt like I was like, oh, okay, so sex can be pleasant. Sex can be good. I can enjoy sex. And that was like a really important time for me.
And how old were you then, did you say?
Maybe 22.
Yeah.
22. So like 22 was the first time I felt like it was consensual. I enjoyed it and I felt good afterwards. And I just like I really did. I just like every cell in my body, I was like, I feel alive. I feel like a woman. Like the next day, I just felt like a woman. Felt like a whole person. And then yeah, so that was probably the most thing I could say as an awakening. And then so I don't know, I've had multiple probably awakenings, but they I might you might have other follow-up questions that I could answer or
Okay. So sex probably wasn't discussed in your house at all.
oh no, no.
So how did you
Oh,
find out like about how babies are made and stuff?
that's a really good question. So my my mom grew up with like four stations on TV, right? Like there's not a ton of and then it was all clean before 8 p.m., right? That's what my mom grew up with. So she had no idea what it meant to have unlimited cable in the 80s. Like she just had no idea. So like I was like, I had Showtime, I had HBO, I you know what I mean? I had MTV. Like there was, and they don't have a after 8 p.m. thing. It's just all day. You could watch Madonna's Truth or Dare. You know what I mean? Like all
Right.
day. So like by the time I was 5, I thought I knew everything there was to know about sex. You know, like that's naive, but like I saw way more sex than I should have as like a small child. And then on top of, my like I don't blame my mom. She didn't know. Like I said, she had four stations. She doesn't know what unlimited cable means. So and on top of that, both my parents worked, so I was a latchkey kid. So I'd come home from kindergarten, I'd pack my own lunch, walk to kindergarten, come home, open my own door, babysit my brother and sister. So I had no supervision and unlimited cable. This really funny thing happened where I think I was 11 years old. 5 years after having unlimited cable, she came home. I was 11, and my mom was like, watching The Simpsons? You can't watch The Simpsons. That's an inappropriate show. And I'm just like, wow, really late for a cartoon dad that burps, after years of, I don't know. I don't know. I was exposed to way too much. So no one talked about it. No one talked about it at school or home or in my family, but I had unlimited cable. And so I think it really did a little bit warp my mind about what is meant to happen, because it's like everybody is portrayed as there's only one thing men value women for.
Right.
And also if you think about the 80s and 90s, there's a rape in almost every movie. Even just like Revenge of the Nerds has what would be considered sexual assault right now.
Oh,
Gone
right.
with the Wind has a sexual assault. Like almost everything, you know, everything pre 2023, it's like that was seen as sex when somebody says no and someone forces them. And it's not what the law says in the state of California. You know what I mean? Like that's not, so I think especially when I was in my young 20s and I was acting, I just expected everyone to try to trick me into sleeping with them. I just expected it. But then when no one did, I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like, I guess every producer is not a skeezy person.
Right.
But, a lot of them are, but I just wasn't surprised by them, I guess. I was more expecting that.
Yeah, it's easier to dodge something if you're expecting it to happen.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. For sure.
Did you have a celebrity crush when you were younger?
I was just talking about this the other day. I didn't real. Oh wait. I had a crush on the Robin Hood Fox for sure. Well, I didn't have any. I didn't have a crush on a human celebrity, except for when I watched Guy Pearce in Memento. But I didn't like him in other movies. But that was the first time I felt something. I'm like, oh, I'm attracted to this person.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no celebrity crushes. I didn't really. I mean, unless you count the Robin Hood cartoon fox, that was I had feelings for that cartoon fox.
I've never heard someone say they had a crush on a cartoon fox.
What? I've
Yeah.
heard other people say they had a crush on the Robin Hood cartoon fox, and
Really?
like I married a British guy.
Mm-hmm.
British guy who dressed well and identifies as a cartoon fox. He's got cute little outfits. Like, you know how like some men are like big dogs where you're like like they're just like that they like you or not, like big dogs, but like My ex-husband's like a little dog in like a little sweater. He needs to be cooed over. Like, oh, look at you, you're adorable. But he's cute. Cute
So
sweaters, cute little
do you
shoes.
commonly think of people as an animal?
I didn't think I did until I just heard myself. I'll say it out loud right now. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. No, I just think that men can have either like kind of higher testosterone, grab what they want energy, where you know, just like a big dog, you're like, get off the couch, you know, like don't ruin the furniture. Or they're like little dog chihuahuas who wipe their little paws before they enter the house. You know what I mean? There's just like there's a different love. There's like a scale of testosterone, I think. And there's a spectrum for women as well. And I'm a little higher on the aggression side. Uh, for well, you know, I don't know. I guess I'd be an 8 out of 10 on the aggression scale. Like I dress femininely and I wear makeup and I always wear dresses, always. But my energy is like I'm a boss, you know, like everything I do, I'm kind of in charge. So I've directed movies. Everyone just does what I say, right? They don't question me, they just do what I say. I even just like teaching yoga, people do what I say. Or
Right,
stand up.
right.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of things I do, I'm used to just people like obeying me, which is honestly not great in relationships that I'm used to being obeyed.
No, I
I'm
get it.
working on it.
I
I'm
got
working
that.
on it.
I got that same trait. I
Yeah.
did. And I had a question, and then I just like, whew, okay, let me go back and think what you said.
About being animals, about people being
No,
animals.
no, about being like the person that everybody listens to, and
Mm.
um. Oh, do you find it hard to like partner with people because you are used to just doing everything your way?
Yeah, and I've been kind of seeing this guy who's the same way. Like I've been talking to him about it. I'm like, this is how you run your household. This is how I run my household. We're both in our previous relationships used to being in charge. How are we going to find the middle ground between us if
Right.
we're both used to being kind of in charge or having things our way?
Mm.
And like I think money is a big thing with that too. Like, I'm used to earning more money than my partner. Like with the last, I don't know, the last 10 guys I've been with, I've earned more money than my
Mm.
partner. And so sometimes that's like gets to people's ego a little bit. But if it doesn't get to their ego, it kind of bothers me too, because then they're just like, oh, you're gonna pick up every check because you make more money than me. Like, and then I'm like, what? I don't want that. I don't want that either. I don't want an appendage. But like so I'm working on trying to be more, I don't know, diplomatic and not just in charge. And I use my voice in a very authoritative way. And so like I don't know, it's just with my sister and we were about to cross the street and I'm like, now. And the way I said now, people around me jumped and started walking. Like, I better obey her. So it's like even strangers obey my commands sometimes when I not even trying to talk to them. So part of it's like I have a theater degree and a lot of the training is voice and I learned, I talk through people's chests, right? I talk through them so they feel it and I'm not just letting it drop to their feet.
Mhm.
But then sometimes it's too intense for like an equal partner for me to speak in a way, for example, like women go up in the end of their sentences. Is this okay? Hello? Hi? But I go down even when
Mhm.
I'm asking a question because that's what men do, right? Men go down even when they're asking a question. And that's a way to be authoritative, right? That's a way to seem like you know what you're talking about. And so, but then sometimes in relationships, it's like that's not the traditional female role to be like, this is how it goes. Like the note is, this is how it goes. Like, not this is how it goes.
Yeah. All right. So does that follow through into the bedroom? Are you like take charge in the bedroom?
No, I like to be dominated. uh, that question's making me blush, but I will answer it. Yes, I feel like I need someone, I enjoy someone physically stronger than me. And I want someone with as high of a drive as me. Uh, so it's not that like, oh my God, I'm actually pretty physically strong. So I do yoga at least 12 hours a week. At least that's a lot of yoga, right? And people think of yoga as wimpy, but I teach kind of like a boot camp style yoga. And so I'm strong. One time I was sleeping with this guy in like it's like a super nice hotel in Beverly Hills. Like it was a nice place.
Mhm.
And I was on with this guy and I don't know, I was like, I don't know, I had just directed something and I felt important and I was in like a film festival. But like, anyways, we were having sex and I kind of tried to just adjust his body. I just tried to move it like an inch differently than it was, like to get a different angle. And I threw him over my head.
Oh no.
And he hit his head on the headboard and kind of like fell down. And I was like, oh no, I fuck like Lenny. Like I feel like Lenny level. Oh no, I broke him. But I don't prefer that. I don't prefer
Right.
being bigger and stronger. I don't I'm not like I'm not if I've dated guys shorter than me. I don't mind. I'm still attracted to people smaller than me, but I accidentally might throw them. Or
You have the greatest smile because you have one face, and then when you smile, it's a totally different face. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, well, I was a super innocent child. I was a very innocent child, and I was just like happy play all the time, right? And then like bad stuff happened to me. I
Mm.
described a couple bad things that happened to me, but like worse stuff happened. I mean, you can imagine what it would be like in a Japanese American family. You don't talk about problems ever. You just don't talk about problems. It's part of a lot of Asian cultures that if there's a problem, you don't bring it up to not embarrass anybody. It's called saving face, right? You don't embarrass anybody. And so to be like basically the bastard child, I was the bastard child and we couldn't talk about it. And so people were uncomfortable. So people outside of my family would get in my face and be like, who's your real dad? Like that's an intense experience from birth to 19 to have to lie. That's an intense experience. And then I also had like I was the ugly smelly kid in elementary school. I was super unpopular. I was super unpopular. And then when I was like 14ish, I was able to dress myself and I learned to do my own hair. And then I was suddenly the very hottest. So I went from the ugliest, gross kid to the everyone suddenly wanted to date me. And where I grew up, they were the same people that teased me as a small child that suddenly wanted to date me as a high schooler. And they both made me feel very unseen. To be the ugliest and the hottest, I felt like this is not the real me anyway. They just wanted to own my face. They wanted to own my mini skirt. That didn't feel validating at my humanity, right? And then no one wants to be the kid who's teased constantly. And so, I think by nature, I'm like giggly hugs, let's be friends, let's be best friends, and I'm still a little bit like that, but I have to have somewhat of a hardened exterior so I'm not just constantly exploited. So I know it sounds immodest for me to say this, but I have a pretty high IQ. Like book wise, I have a high IQ. Um, but if I act too cheerful, people assume I'm the dumbest person in the world. You know what I mean? Like, so it's a little bit like my voice authoritatively. I use my body language authority, but it's just also just not. I was sexually harassed at every single job I've had from like 16 to 43. Like my current job right now, my current job at age 43, I have the loveliest boss. And he's the only person who's not sexually harassed me as a boss. Like as a waitress, and I'm sure this happened to you too. As a waitress in my early 20s, I'd get sent home from shifts for not responding sexually to my boss. And
Right.
that felt like a death threat. Like the word sexual harassment sounds like someone is just like, I like your pink Angora sweater. And then the woman's like, I am enraged. How dare
Yeah,
you? But that's not what
right.
it is. It's,
Yeah.
I can't pay my rent and pay for my child's food because I'm sent home from shifts from work because I don't respond sexually to my boss. And the as a single mom, that was freaking terrifying. Like I had a job answering phones at like a software company, and I would get skeezed on by these men. And it, as a young girl, I mean, 21, 22, 23, 24, all those.
Mm.
Yeah. So I have to have a tough exterior just based on I'm considered pretty, right? Like being considered pretty, if I act innocent or happy, people really want to own that. And uh, it's scary for me, you know? So to act like I won't back down from a fight is what's kept me alive in a lot of
Oh, that
situations.
makes sense. That makes
Do
total
you
sense.
feel like you developed a little bit of that yourself, like a tougher exterior just to survive in this world? Or what was it like for you?
Well, I was a very shy, withdrawn child, like afraid to talk to anybody. And I don't know, just at some point, I kind of just went like, this is not serving me. And I don't even really know when it happened.
You don't know when that kind
I
of
don't really
its
even
own
know when that
awakening.
happened. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, I don't even know. But uh, I'm a Gemini, so my whole life I look back as there's everything's double. Like I was really shy, but I did this, and yeah, like two things together that don't make sense. So people now they see me on stage and they're like, "You're not shy," and I'm like, "No, I totally am."
A lot of comics are extremely shy in their personal life. I find that more than not, comics are extremely shy in their personal life.
Yeah, put me at an open mic. I don't talk to. I don't. I have a hard time talking to anyone.
Oh, really? Yeah, I actually extremely social, but most comics I know are not.
Yeah.
Like I love people a lot and I love talking, and the times I feel shy for a second, I'm too interested to know the other person's story to feel self-conscious. So
Mhm.
like as a yoga teacher, everyone who comes through the door, I know their names and like a little bit about their backstory. And then I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so the same students come every day, and then I get to watch them grow and change, and then that like I get so much satisfaction. Like so,
Yeah.
I I I am not shy. I love hearing people's stories. I love knowing a lot. I have a lot of acquaintances. I don't. I guess I don't have a ton of close friends, but I have endless amounts of acquaintances for
Mhm.
sure. And I do have like a general, this sounds so corny and so yoga teacher of me, but I do have a general love for humanity. Like I love people. And I try to find like something special or important about everyone I meet. Obviously I have dealt with some violence. So that slows me down a little bit. And the openness allowed some of the violence, but it would happen anyway, right? So I try not to find blame or judgment, and I try to stay myself and be as open as possible. But you know, I think you're right to point out I mostly have a frown until I'm laughing.
Um, all right. What's your definition of amazing sex?
Okay, I have I so this is really funny. So many metrics to sex, right? Like how long does someone last? Like how's their cardio, right? Like cardio, that's important. How much does someone listen to and respond to what I'm saying? How much does someone listen to respond to my body language and my words, right? Those are two separate metrics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then like obviously people talk about like the size of organs or not, like that kind of matters, but not as much as just being like emotionally present. And I think I've basically studied sex academically. Like I've taken workshops, I've read books, and then I've gone through my own sexual trauma and then come back from it enough times that
Right.
like I teach pole dance to survivors of sexual assault as well as people who just had a baby. So people who don't feel sexy at all. I teach classes, and it's not really even about the acrobatics of the pole or the sexiness of being a stripper, right? It's not about that. It's really about just being connected with your five senses. So, for example, like, how do you like to be touched? So, like, do you like to? So, all the women, just picture the women in a circle on their mats. And I'm like, do you like to be touched like this? And touch yourself softly, right? And then I'll be like, well, what about firmly, like a medium pressure? What about a scratch? What about a firm? And I just have like people feel what their body likes to be touched, because no one can make you come if you don't know what you like, right? And so I feel like it's on me to know what I like or not. Like, do I like soft music? Do I like loud music? Do I like um warm temperature or cold temperature? You know what I'm saying? Like what smells do I want in the room? So I'm really into like what are the five senses and making myself as comfortable as possible. And then, with women especially, you need a good 24 hours before the sex that you feel comfortable. You need someone to make you feel respected and cared about a whole 24 hours. Otherwise you're not fully aroused. There's things like it takes 20 minutes. So a vulva can expand to 4 times its size, but it takes approximately 20 minutes. Men usually have an erection or not, but women, it takes 20 minutes. And so a lot of men don't understand that. And so a man understanding how long it takes for a woman to be fully aroused, that's super hot. And that's another separate metric, right? Like someone who knows how long it takes for a woman to be fully aroused. And, I think about it a lot that, that the vulva increasing in size, there's almost like padding around the urethra, the vaginal opening, and the anus. So it's like a balloon around all of it. And that is why sex feels good. If you're not fully engorged, it hurts. Not at all. Your flesh, it pokes your organs, it can hurt joints, connective tissue, all that stuff. So I talk about it a lot in my stand-up as well, because it's like the opposite of rape is not just not sex, it's not celibacy. The opposite of rape is making a woman come really hard, right? And then there's so many ingredients to that. And so I gave some like quantitative requirements of cardio, understanding my body, making me feel safe, having the five senses be good. Those are kind of the quantitative. But then the qualitative, I like sex that's so good I can't just talk and crack jokes through the whole time. I tend to want to crack jokes. I feel sexy when people think I'm funny, right? I feel so sexy if someone tells me I'm funny, I will come. Yeah. I don't even have to be having sex at the time. I will come. But in my mind to crack really just messed up jokes during sex, and so I just have to shut up. But I just want to say terrible things like your eyes are so blue like a fetus or something terrible that like makes me laugh because it's messed up. I want to say anyway, so I just shut up. But if someone's good enough in bed, I can't speak anyway. Like I like that level. And then I tend to have multiple orgasms just in general. If someone is even half decent, I know what I like, so I know how to make it good for myself, right? So that's another. I'm having such a good time answering this question. But yeah, someone who knows somewhat, a person needs to know how to make me have an orgasm, but I also know what will make me. I know what will make me feel safe. I know what will make me feel good. I know what angle or position I like. But I do like an authoritative quality in the person I'm sleeping with. Like, Like, I like to be picked up and bent over a dresser. You know what I mean? Like, I like that. I like my hair pulled. I like to be spanked. You know what I'm saying? But if I don't like the person, it's like, don't touch me, right? Like, but like, if I'm aroused enough, everything feels good, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you like do you have any interest in porn at all?
Oh, I hate porn. I didn't say that yet, did I? Good question. Don't like porn. And one of my comic friends makes fun of me. He's like, cause it doesn't involve you. So for me, it's like reasons like I was abused in my first relationship was because he watched too much porn and the porn was like
Right.
crossed a line of violence. It wasn't just aggressive, it crossed a line. And uh so I that stuff happened to me late teens, early 20s. And then I had 20 years of nothing bad happening to me. And then I was raped again in my late 30s. And that was the worst of my life. It was very, very bad. Like the it was so bad. It made the other things that happened to me seem like a bump on the shoulder. Like it was my body was hurt with very badly. And like not just emotional therapy. I needed physical therapy, right? Like that's how much my body was damaged. And and so like my domestic violence expert witness that had to testify in court against this person described porn that I was like, oh wait, he did mention that phrase that you just said. I'm like, and it was traumatizing to even hear about the porn being described that he was copying, like the type of torturing me. It wasn't just going beyond me saying no, it was hurting my body. And so like porn is just like, not only is it like an emotional trigger because of my experience, but it just doesn't turn me on. Like it doesn't turn me on. I'm just like, even if it were like pleasant porn, I'd just be like, it just doesn't do it for me.
You think
I'm more
sorry. What I
yeah.
think is that porn has turned a lot of men into bad lovers.
I agree
That
because
is
it's
not, we don't typically like it like they're showing it.
right. There's no foreplay and it's all pounding, right? No foreplay, all pounding, right? Like it's not good that way, right? Like there's a book called Vagina by Naomi Wolf, and she talks about the idea, it's not foreplay, she calls it the goddess array. And she's like, there are some movies that are not porn that kind of show the goddess array of how many, like I was talking about, like the different senses that
Right.
are made to feel safe. So it shouldn't even be called foreplay because it's part of sex. And you're right, porn does not have that. If
Mm.
it, and like, it's, I don't know. I feel like some women have told me that they like porn, but I just, I don't know a lot of women who are like, yeah, porn really does it for me, right? Also, like men masturbate too hard, like they squeeze too hard, and no vagina is going to be as tight as their fists, and then it desensitizes them. That's one problem. Uh, they have these unrealistic scenarios, and then they get habituated, and it needs to be more and more and more violent until uh, they can't be aroused by a normal woman. And so that's a second problem with porn. I also have some friends who are survivors of child trafficking
Mm.
that were in child porn that it affects their lives for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So that stuff's all so that's scary. I mean, I'm sure there's some pornography in the world that is more gentle and makes sense to me, but I'm not seeing it and I'm not looking for it.
Right. You ever
I want
remember?
to stay sensitive in my body to an actual man and not a fictitious fantasy. So I think that's part of it too.
Do you remember any like a mainstream movie that had like an erotic scene that ever did anything for you?
I did like Black Swan. I like the girl and Black Swan. That was hot. But now,
I think someone else
I
mentioned that too. That's funny.
Well, in a movie that Natalie Portman was in, and I'm vegan, and they bought her a bunch of food. She's vegan as well, but she wasn't going to eat it. She has to stay a size zero. She's not going to eat all the snacks they bought her. So I
Right.
was like, I brought home from set, and I'm like, I'm going to eat Natalie Portman's cupcake. uh, yeah, but that movie is still a horror movie. Like that's still a sad, terrible like
Right.
scenario. But just an innocent person being like, I want this. It was
Right.
sweet.
Do you
What about you? What was yours? I'm sure you say it in another episode,
well,
but
it's funny. As a young person, I watched this, thought it was very sexy, but the next time I went to watch it, I was like, oh, this is 9.5 weeks.
oh no.
Then when I went back to look at it, I'm like, oh, this is really troublesome. I don't know that I really.
It's problematic.
Yeah,
But as you know, it was probably the least problematic thing you could have watched during that time period,
yeah.
right?
I think it was the kitchen food scene that was just, did it for me. Of course, fat girl, kitchen food sex. That's there. How's your body image?
I love my body. I love my body a lot, and it's offensive to people that I love my body, and that's offensive to me that people are offended. But like,
Right.
I like my body, so like had so remember when I was saying I transitioned? I was like a ugly duckling to a swan a little bit, right? I have that little bit of ugly. When I grew really tall, so I looked really thin. And so like there was another like girls in junior high's mom who approached my mom and was like, she's anorexic. Like I would get in trouble for just being normal. Like it's like I don't do anything to be thin. I just was thin. I mean, I played soccer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was always thin and people hated me for it. Sometimes it was hard to be friends with girls, honestly.
Right.
It's hard to be friends with girls because girls hated me for being thin. And then now mm, now I'm like 135, so I'm like a little muscly. I'm a little bit muscly. I'm 5'5", 135, and my shoulders are so big I can't wear lady coats. Like I have like really broad shoulders, but I still feel cute. I still feel cute, and like I've had two babies. I have a little bit of a belly, but I think it's cute. You know what I mean? I don't hate myself for having a little bit of a belly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I teach yoga in just like a bra top, and I show my belly, and I'm postmenopausal. I mean I genuinely have a little belly, so I don't care. I'm beautiful. I'm a woman. I'm a full grown woman. It's okay for my belly to hang out. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and uh, another body thing is like I used to have like a giant bush. Like I had a giant power to the people bush. But then I lasered everything off at some point, and sometimes I miss my giant bush because it's like I'm a full grown woman. I have hair, like a little bit. There's that. Um, but yeah, like I've only fluctuated between like an 8 and a 0. So the biggest I've ever been is an 8. So it's like that's still thin. So like my I have dated women who are considered plus size. Like I would never label anyone in a way that is seen negatively, but there's kind of been a little bit of a tension about it. And so it doesn't matter how beautiful I can say a woman is. The rest of the world is telling her she's fat, right? And that is frustrating for me because no matter how much I can say to someone, I value you, you're so sexy, you're so beautiful, in herself, sometimes there's an unworthiness that I can't fill that pit. I can't fill that pit. There's too much of and so I get frustrated. Like I have a little bit of thin person privilege, right? Like I have not been emotionally abused for my weight. I have not been emotionally abused. Besides just that one time of that parent complaining that I was anorexic when I wasn't, right? Like that's,
Right.
but in general, I don't get constant images telling me I'm the wrong size. Mostly because I don't watch TV anymore. But I get frustrated that I can't date the women I want to date because they don't like themselves enough. And the only reason they don't like themselves enough is because everyone tells them not to. And so that, like, it honestly, like, it crushes my heart. Like, it crushes my heart that, it crushes my heart how much, I almost think it's like more feminine and sexy to be curvy. Like, I think it's so hot, but that I get rejected for being higher on a hierarchy that I didn't invent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What
So
What do you think about what I'm saying? Do I sound like a bitch? Like, what do you think
no,
of what
you
I
don't.
said?
No, you don't, because uh, uh, I can't relate to what you're saying in some ways. I get what you're saying. I totally get it. I don't feel any little bits of resentment, like, oh, that's bitch. She
Yeah,
never, I don't feel that way
yeah,
at all. I
right, right,
feel
right.
like you're at least looking at all viewpoints of this, like uh, we all have our things, whatever. We all have our great
Right.
things about us and the things that we struggle with. And I
Yeah,
see that you're looking at them all fully and wanting to
yeah,
appreciate a woman who may not appreciate herself because of how she,
right.
yeah.
And I get frustrated because it's like I don't like having an external criteria be forced on me as what my criteria should be. Like, I don't like that, right? Uh like I date men and women, and I date some people who are older, and that people are like, that guy's too old. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm attracted to like a whole human being. Like, I'm attracted to, like, it's, we're not what we look like on the outside. And having the extremes of everyone thinking I'm gross to everyone thinking I'm hot, like, I'm like, what about what's on the inside? What about the content of my character? What about my likes and dislikes and my passion and my just human beingness, just to exist? Like, so I tend to like dating people who are older because it's, I like people being really smart, you know what I mean? And it, like, the body shape is secondary. The shape of their genitalia is like way further than secondary. Like, I'm dating a whole person, and uh it doesn't really matter, man, woman, or non-binary. Is this some person? Is this the person I appreciate and love and I feel seen with? And who cares about me? And it's almost like the same thing about like what makes sex good. It's the thing that makes sex good is feeling cared about and seen, like feeling really beautiful and feeling, and I don't even need to hear the words "you're beautiful." It's just like caring about what feels good to me or not does make me feel beautiful.
Right. How do you label yourself, your sexuality? Do you say you're
Yeah,
bisexual
I'm bi. I would
or
say bi. I'd say bi. Like, it's hard to say one is bi though, because gay people gay it, sorry, I'm laughing at my own stand-up joke about it, but like uh there's this saying that if women just date women and men just date men, they're called a gold star lesbian or gold star gay. And I'm just like a Costco membership. Like, I don't need pussy in bulk, okay? I don't need to go aisle by aisle sampling pussy. I don't have enough garage space
it's funny.
store extra individually wrapped pussies. Am I right? But like, I feel when I say I'm bi, people are like, "Are you really gay? Do you really like women?" And I'm like, "Whoa!" And it'll be someone I bought dinner for, someone that I'm asking out. And so sometimes it's more comfortable labeling, just being like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of gay. I'm straight, but I'm just kind of gay," because then I don't get a fight. Like, objectively, truthfully, I'm bisexual, but like, it makes the word makes people's skin crawl. And then men who are straight men sometimes hear the word bisexual and they think oh, I get to have a threesome now. And it's like, no, you don't.
Right.
I am a monogamous person. I like one person that I sleep with only. Or yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. It's still like a dehumanizing thing to be like, oh, now you are a sex object because you are bisexual, right? Like, no, I just sometimes date men and sometimes date women, and it's we're I'm here, I'm kind of queer, and we're all kind of used to it.
All right. I got two questions left for you. So I'm going to qualify this question because you have told me about some of the regrets of things that have happened to you sexually. Do you have any regrets of things that you did sexually, or that you? I'm not talking about like
Yeah, I hear you.
rapes or date rapes, but just things you thought, oh, I
Right.
should have done that.
Yeah, I think it's like I would never even put date rape or rape in the regret category because I truly don't victim blame myself. I don't blame myself. I think if someone chooses to be violent against me, that's their choice.
Right.
Has nothing to do with me, right? But regrets. I think I don't have any regrets. Like I think like I tend to bond really a lot. If somebody's good in bed, I emotionally bond. And if they're not good in bed, why bother? And so I don't sleep around. Like I can't have casual sex. Every time I think I can, I'm like in love with someone and then I'm paying some crackhead's rent. You know what I mean? Like I'm like in love. But like I think the person who comes to my mind when I hear the word regret, I think about this guy. He was so high all the time, like his eyes face slightly different directions. Like it was so high. And like when we split up, my friends was like, oh, it didn't work out with that guy. The guy who looked at your yoga class and went back in your room to smoke pot. It didn't work out with that guy. Or like my friend teases me about it. But like honestly, even though he wasn't like a long-term partner, I felt unconditionally loved by him. Like there was some quality he had that I was like, what is this feeling that I don't have to change anything about myself and he's so attracted to me and likes me so much? Oh wait, is this what unconditional love is? Like, so I still, even though that guy was not a long-term forever person, he taught me something. And so I don't truly have a regret. Like, yeah, was it annoying to fall in love with someone? Yeah. Was it annoying to be rejected by someone? Yeah. But overall, I can't say I regret that at all because, I kind of opened myself up. I followed my heart. It wasn't my life partner, but like, he opened something in me that like my criteria went up a notch. Like I can't have less than this in the future. Like he taught me about unconditional love. All right, next question.
Do you have anything left on your sexual bucket list, or have you done everything you ever wanted to do?
Yeah, I guess I have done everything. I have sounds so terrible, but no, I think I have done everything. I think the only thing left is to have a life partner that meets me at the same level of drive. It's like I don't know. It's like I like having sex together and sleeping together and waking up and having oatmeal together and having an old man walk together. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would like that with the whole package. I would like I kind of like I would like to be sexually matched with somebody who's also my life partner. And I've not ever ever had anything like that. Like somebody is either like we're really matched sexually, but like our lifestyles don't match up, or like my marriage of the guys with for 10 years, like we have the same values, we have the same value system, we love our child together, we like the same movies, but just sexually we just weren't matched up. So I guess my only bucket list is to be loved wholly.
I believe you'll have that.
Thank you.
What's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram is at Orchid Cameron, OrchidCameron. So Orchid Cameron. And then that's my same for Facebook,
Okay.
Twitter, orchidcameron.com. There's only one other Orchid Cameron, and I do think it was one of my high school students. I used to teach high school, making a fake one of me. I think I'm the only Orchid Cameron.
Okay.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you so
Well,
much.
we're done. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and you're a lot of fun. And I can't wait to talk to you some more some other time. So,
Yay, thank
all
you.
right.
All right,
Bye.
bye.